introduce you to this tape, which is a tape that my son Peter took a long while ago. And after he'd finished it, for some unknown reason, we couldn't find the tape. It just disappeared. And after a short time, we thought we would never find it again. But then again, 6 months ago, it turned up. And from there, we realized that it was in year 2004 that this was filmed, which makes it 10 years ago. Here we are now. We've just gone through my fish house, and the first tank we come to are bale tails, metallic bale tails, and I'm sure the first question you're thinking about is, how many fish is there in that tank? Well, actually, there's over 40 fish, and they have been in there since they was quite young, and always been in that one tank. Why they're so good is because over years and years of learning about the fish and the water, I come to the conclusion what was the most important thing, and that is the water condition. So I concentrated on that. I fixed taps over each tank. I have 16 tanks in the fish house and 4 big tanks outside. Each tank inside and outside are fitted with cold water taps, one over each tank. And also there is an overflow system, which you perhaps see in the tank there, and this takes all the water out. It goes into a pipe underneath the tank, and they're all connected up to each other, each tank, and the pipes go down to the drain. There's 2 exit pipes, one at either side of the fish house, and these go down into the drain, which gives us clean water all the time. I never stop these taps unless it is desperate. They go on, the water is changing. It doesn't want to be a fast flow, just a nice slow run, and not too fast that you're moving a lot of water in a short period. Also, you will notice the aeration. Every tank has 2 aeration stones, one at each end of the tanks, with a nice flow to put oxygen in the tanks. Here we have the Bristol shabunkins. These are fish that was first bred in this country, in Bristol, and so they are called Bristol shabunkins. They have improved over the years. I think it was about 1924, something like that, when they first started on these, and they're a very, very popular fish. They have a nice body shape, nice finish. The tail has been developed over the years from one shape to another, and I think this is a very good shape. You get 2 lobes, and these lobes must match, but they mustn't cross in the middle. So you have to be very careful not making them too long that they start bending over. We have now moved on to fantails. Fantails, as in the other tank, there is at least 30 to 40 fish in this tank. And as you can see, none of them suffering at all. There's no sickness or anything. You don't see them gasping for air off the top of the water. That's because of the conditions they're in. The water is clean all the time. And you will notice that there's no gravel or sand on the base. This is so that each day any food or droppings from the fish or anything gets into the tank is siphoned off with a siphon pipe. And so it is kept clean constantly. Every day this has to be done. That is what I do the last thing at night. And as you can see, the fish are really at their best. They're looking for food constantly, but that is another thing you have to be very careful with. You must not overfeed them. Don't give them too much food that they leave any, and it's better to leave them a bit short than overfeeding them and leaving food at the bottom of the tank. The best way, the way I always deal with mine, even when I was at work, I used to feed them at first thing in the morning before I went out to work. And then at lunchtime, I used to make quite a dash home with a sandwich in my hand, because I was a foreman that had to blow the hooter for when the men stopped working and when they started again. So I had half an hour to get back to blow the hooter. So I travelled up, which is about 2 miles, with a sandwich in my hand so that my hands were free when I got back to the fish. Had a quick look round to make sure everything was all right, feed them and dash back, ready to blow the hooter for the men to start work. And also, we used to work overtime till 7:30, and after that I had to lock up the works, see everything was all right, and then I brought a bucket and a net, and I'd go on a trip once I'd locked up. I did a round trip of about 30 miles, collecting daphnia from ponds that I knew supplied me with daphnia. Then I was reaching home about 9 o'clock at night. Still time to look at the fish again before I went to bed. Right, quite a busy life. These are nacreous lionheads. A bit unusual. They don't swim too clever. You'll notice there's no dorsal fin on these fish. The colour varies. I think these could be a bit better, with more different colours in the body and in the head. And they have this growth on the head and on the face. That's the main feature. And one has to be careful about this, because there's another fish very similar to this, which is a ranchu. Personally, I prefer the lionhead. I've seen so many distorted bodies on ranchu. The worst part being the peduncle, which is the part that supports the tail. With the ranchu, there's a lot where it looks like the peduncle has been broken and there's a kink in it and a bend down, which throws the tail horizontal instead of vertical. But anyway, no doubt that will be changed in time, and I'll stick with the lionheads. Here we have scale lionheads. Sorry, now we've come back onto fantails. These look better because there's more light on them. On the last lot we had a look at, it was in rather a dark situation, and you wouldn't see the colour as well. But here you can see better colouring. There's a lot of work sorting out the colouring, getting them as it explains in the book of standards. That's the judging standards. That's an interesting point because what it is, judging is you start off with 100 points, and the judges will come round and judge each section and taking off points for faults in the fish. One must be careful that in the twin-tail fish you don't get joined tails at the top. They have to be split. This is one of my favourite hobbies, is going around judging. I've done it now for about 50 years and I've never been bored. I've never got time to get bored, but I love it. And even when you get criticism of people that think you've missed their fish or you haven't given them enough points, you have to always be prepared as a judge to be honest, but always be prepared for somebody coming round to you, criticising their fish. But if you give them a good explanation, I'm sure many times there's things they don't realise, but that's the way they learn. So, to become a judge, it should be, there's two ways of judging. There's learning to be a judge, that's practical and theory. And there's only one way you can learn to be a practical judge. I will talk about that shortly, because we have moved on to veil tails. These are one of the hardest fish to keep and breed and produce good ones. These, as you can see, have very long tails. They should be level across the bottom. They should be broad and spread out. Shouldn't be a fork in the end of the tail. It should be level at the end of the tail. And the colours, I find, are very difficult to get right. These are one of my favourite fish, and I'm afraid I had high ambitions of producing some really good ones, which I think I have done in my time, but not as good as I would have liked them. Anyway, we can't do everything. We can't produce everything, can we? And bear in mind that all these fish that you are looking at, the different kinds, they are all, the shape is a mutation, and mutations are faults. And to create these faults, you have to line breed. And that is putting the right mutations together and developing them. When you look at, say, the veil tail, there's so many mutations in them. The body shape is a mutation. The long tail is mutation, and all the finnages, the dorsal fin and the caudal fins, they're all long finnage. and all that's mutation. When you compare these to a goldfish, there's no resemblance whatsoever. But there you are, it's all part of the game. The theory is, I don't believe in theory, because I've known so many people can talk the talk, but they can't produce what they talk about. Practically, you should learn from the start. You've got to produce some fish. You've got to start off with getting fish, putting them together, which is selective breeding. Not very easy. An example is, I have a friend, a fishy friend, and when we started early on in life with the fish, we always understood with the Bristol shabunkin, it should be a very a narrow fish. And on his first spawning, he got these out, and of course he looked out for all the deep-bodied fish and put them away, got rid of them. And he thought he'd done the right thing, because when he wanted all the narrow ones for showing and the following year, when he was looking for females to breed with, he found out that he'd thrown all the females away because they had deep bodies. But that was a good learning curve. And what you should do is learn to spawn your fish, which is two ways of spawning them, either hand spawning them, which I don't recommend, or natural spawning, where you put spawning material such as sort of very light netting, very fine netting, so that the fish don't hurt themselves when they're chasing in and out the netting and dropping the eggs. The female drops the eggs and the male chases her into the netting, and he drops the milk, and that they fertilise themselves. So I think hand spawning, a lot of people, and I've done it myself, so I know what I'm talking about. You can get overexcited when the fish aren't giving you as many eggs as you think you should be getting, and you tend to squeeze near the anal fin to push the eggs out of the body. You tend to put too much pressure on and damage the fish. But that's another learning curve you need. And then there's a lot to the feeding. The fish you're looking at now are London shabunkins. Now those are a good fish to start as a beginner, because they're a healthy fish, a strong fish, and they could exist outside in a pond in the winter. I don't recommend any of the twin tails or the short-bodied fish being put out in the winter, but these will live in a pond, providing it's about 3 foot deep, so that they can get right down where the weather isn't so bad, and there they'll manage till the spring. Here we have more fantails. These are outside. These are in one of the bigger tanks. And as you can see, they look brighter outside. I'm sure they do better outside than inside. providing the weather's good. Many a time I've had to bring a lot of fish in because of the bad weather. The short-bodied fish tend to suffer worse. I don't think they should go much below 50 degrees. And to prevent that, all my tanks in the fish house also had on each tank they had a heater and a thermostat, so that you generally stop feeding or very rarely feeding them through the winter. So as the winter comes in and the temperatures drop, you have to make sure the fish don't suffer with the cold and that. And many a time I've brought most of my fish inside, sometimes in the bedroom upstairs. But that's another story. I'll tell you that later on, I think. And yes, so you'll notice these are a brighter colour, a nicer colour than the ones inside, but it's because they're outside. But I'm really pleased that they're so, what can I say? They're so lovely, and they're not dashing about or rubbing against anything. They're in beautiful condition. I'm very proud of that. It's very important. Although we do make mistakes at times, I've made plenty of mistakes, but you live with that and carry on. What I like in these is the black markings in the tail, well, in all the fins. They're very good. You see the blue in some of the fish, that's the main colour you want, the blue. It's amazing, you see two fish there, one a dark coloured blue one, and the others have the red and that. You get quite a mixture. This is with all the mutations, of course. That's what you expect. Yeah, I think if you want to become a judge, I think you should produce fish, put them in a show, one of a cold water show, a special show, like you get at London, Bristol, Coventry, Manchester, and we use North East. They're all specialist shows. A place to go if you want to learn as well. And all these societies have their own arrangements. Go and have a chat with them, and I think you'll become interested. Here we have two lionheads. Actually, the tanks that they're in is a tank that's about 3 foot long, and it's got two dividers in. So it's 3 partitions. And the reason for this is, and it'll be 6 to 8 inches wide. And the reason for this is, if you want to examine your fish without holding them in your hand or anything like that, maybe taking the mucus off or whatever, you can examine your fish when they're like this. Actually, you'll see the 2 dividers at each end, and you can see fish in the other 2. There you are now, divider, and actually there's 6 of these lionheads in that one tank. That's good for examining them. I think these are beautiful. Lovely shape, colour, good head growth, not too much. Sometimes people do too much with the head growth, and many times I've seen where the eyes are practically covered over because of the growth on the head and the face. That spoils the whole show. But these lovely condition, beautiful body shapes, I can't find much fault with these. Nice tail, controlling it. You need a reasonable sized tail to counteract the head, which tends, if there's too much growth on and the tail is too small, they tend to tip up, and what we used to call headstanders. As soon as they stop swimming, they stand on their head. These are not headstanders. What they're doing is looking for food, as usual. So they're absolutely great. Very pleased with them and all. Yeah, feeding. I like to feed live food. Live food is important, especially when you're building your fish up to breed, to spawn. What you need is, as they come out of the cold, if you use a heater, as I was saying about heaters, if you use a heater, I used to start warming my tanks up, perhaps they were down to 50, and I would slowly, very slowly, ease the temperature up from 50 till I got it to 70, because from when I start, I always aimed to get my first spawning about the March the 26th. I set a date and I work on that, because from coming up cold, you can build them up with live food until you reach 70 degrees, and by the time you've done that, they should be ready for spawning. You will notice this as they approach 70 degrees. You'll find the males have tubercles, which are little white spots, either on the gill plates or on the leaving ray of the pectoral fins. That's the front fins. They're on the main rib, on the leading ray, and that tells you the males. The females don't have these spots on, but you can see them getting generally fatter on one side. But with fish like these, sometimes a bit difficult to tell. But if you pick one up and gently, very gently, just ease your hand over the back and down to the anal, near the anal, and you just gently squeeze in, and you'll find if they're carrying eggs, it'll be soft, and that's when you know you're getting ready for spawning. So that's very handy. But I was talking about food, and worms are very good. One of the best foods is worms. You have to go to a midden or something, or a manure place, and dig in there and get the worms out. That takes some doing when the weather's not good. But there you are again, it's another hardship. But you get a pleasure when you get a lot of worms, and you can cut several up depending how many fish you're feeding with the worms. And there's also bloodworms which you can purchase. You can buy them. I won't mention prices of that, because that can vary. That's bloodworm you can buy. you can also, some angling shops, buy worms. You'd have to look round and find out where you can get the best stuff. But once you've done a spawning, you need to get some brine shrimp. I'll just talk about that in a minute because I've got the black moors on now. The black moors, one of my favourites. The ones we have on today, and I've just come out of a winter, and of course I must admit I've neglected them a bit, and the black has come off the body, showing all the scales. Well, that is wrong. That's neglect that. Perhaps shorter food, cold weather, etc., etc. And although I can get them back to A1 within a couple of weeks, the right feeding and that, and just putting the temperature up very, very slowly. Don't move it up. Only 1 minute, one mil every day or every other day, as slowly as that. Now you can see the beautiful finage they have. The fault in that finage is in the tail, which is the white portions in between the ribs. We don't tolerate that. That would let you down if you were showing black moors. So that's a fault. But you find these faults in your fish, but some have such a lot of good faults, you ignore the few. They're still good for breeding with. You can breed them out. That's the whole point. The reason the black comes off is the black colouring is on the outside of the scale, whereas all the coloured fish, the colour comes from under the scales. Now there you are, that one's performing quite nice, very high dorsal, a beautiful tail. It has a few white marks in, but the body shape's great, lovely eyes. The eyes are round and just sticking out the right amount. Here you are. You can see some more. I once bred some a long time ago, and there was the best black moors I've ever seen. And of course I have to hold my hands up because I did ignore them for quite a while I was planning on doing other things, and I lost them. That was absolutely stupid on my part. But there again, you get ambitious and you overdo it, you do too much. But that's life. Yeah, here we have the Bristol Shabunkins outside. They look better out here. There you are. They're so docile. It's just the way they are. But with the wrong treatment, they'll be dashing about, perhaps scraping things off the side and that. Anything that gets in the water. Always treat your bloodworm or your worms. With your worms, you chop them up and put some sort of disinfectant in, and don't take that. I don't really mean disinfectant. It's stuff what's sold at the aquariums for treating fish, but very, very careful treating fish. I don't particularly like having to treat mine. it does happen, of course, sometimes. You can't help it. But I find that people get over-ambitious with treating the fish. They see a spot and they think it wants treating. It could be a breeding tubercle. And then they put twice as much of the quantity for the treatment in the tank, and it does all the harm. They think they're going to get it cured quicker. You have to be very patient. You'll see the greenery in the background. These are the tanks outside. That is a photograph paper. It's stuck on the back of the glass. It's not in the tank. Very effective though. Makes things look really good. As you can see on the bottom, there's nothing on the bottom, only perhaps bloodworm. I did feed maggots. There's some very soft-skinned ones, and they're very good. You've perhaps seen in some of the tanks where there's white pieces floating about. That's the skins of the maggots. They won't eat the skins, so I remove that at night time before I go to bed. Now here's some more veil tails. Now these are different again from the ones inside. I think these are gorgeous. I think I would have called these majestics if I had to give them a name. Majestic. That means stateliness or dignified. And I think that's just what they are. Beautiful then. Look at the blue in that one. And the nice black stripes in the finnage and in the dorsal fin. Swimming around with no trouble at all. Yeah? Majestic. That's the word for them. So them are better veil tails than I was talking about in the fish house. Actually, shortly you will see some more very similar. But what it was, yes. I thought I would make some into arandas. Thought it'd be nice to have some arandas and develop the hood on these fish. So I got a male aranda and spawned it with a couple of females, and they have actually got a growth on the head forming, but not as much as I would like. But no doubt another spawning with an aranda will develop the hood more. But also it will develop in the next 12 months even more. I will mention them as soon as they come up. So there you have them. Majestic. Veil tails. Veil tails. I like the blue in these. These have good colour. Although, really you should have 5 colours in anything nacreous, like red, blue, black, violet, and a bit of other colours as well, all mingled in pretty patterns. Yeah, and even the black dots look nice. Now that's a lovely shabunkin, Bristol. Not that one, the other one just gone past. It's showing all the scales. And I'm beginning to like these scales. They seem to make it stand out. I was just waiting for one coming past with no, not these. I've seen one special that looks really lovely with the shiny pearl scales. There's too many on that one, but then again there shouldn't be any at all. But you never know, they may become popular. They do change things in some of the fish. You never know. Yep. Look at that broad tail, that lovely tail. That's the one I was talking about, with all the shiny scales on. Can't show it though. I'll get told off. Food's important for young fish. Aquarium flake is a good food for your fry when they've hatched out. The flake food, but the tropical one, because it has all the nutrients in that, what they require, and it'll strengthen your fish, does them good. But yeah, you don't want to high protein. You shouldn't feed your adult fish on high protein pellets. That's not a good thing. They don't need that. So be aware of that. It's important. That's a nice colour, isn't it? Very good. There you are. Yeah, I like that. Oh well. Yes, I have now finished. I'm now 87, and this last year, the family had been mithering me about stopping having fish, and the reason was because my fish house is pretty high up, and I have a platform that runs round halfway up, but also I need step ladders to deal with the top tanks, and they had visions of me falling off. So they chunned and chunned, and I decided, yeah, it was getting too much work anyway. And so I told my grandson and my son-in-law and my own son to pull everything down and get rid of everything, which they did. They made a good job, and I can honestly say I think it's all about work. It gets worse as you get older, becomes too much. And in my retirement now, I'm quite happy. I haven't really missed the fish, although half of my talks are on fish. And I love going around the shows. I've been doing it for years and years and years, judging. And I think I've done them all. Not once, dozens of times. And I really enjoy that. Talking to friends, old friends. I've got lots of old friends, and yeah, that's nice. This is a strange thing. We've just come on to some fish that are bred. I've 2 tanks full of these. And what struck me as being interesting is they have very pink eyes. And my biggest shock when I got this tape was to find on the film you don't see the pink eyes as they are. They're outstanding. And I was right disappointed about this because they were beautiful. And I have thought that I could have done something with these fish, but I'm afraid my time run out. And but what it is, people say, what are they? And well, they hadn't got a name or anything as far as I know. And I said, well, I think they should be called Rambinos. And they said, Rambinos, what's that? I said, well, my name's Ramsden, and they're albinos because they have pink eyes. So that was my naming of these fish, Rambinos. Very active little fish, very much like a fantail in body shape and finish. Yeah, I don't know. But the colour, they're like a creamy colour as they get a bit older. There you are, you can see it there. That's the other tank. They've made more progress than the other one. Quite nice fish. But I wish they'd have shown the pink eyes. It were a big disappointment, that. Anyway, not to worry. You should, in the breeding, culling is, as I've mentioned, culling, haven't I? Very important. But you have to be careful. When you get three types with Bristol Shabunkins and London Shabunkins, the nacreous ones. When you spawn your fish, they don't show any colour at the beginning, but as they start growing up, after a couple of weeks, few weeks, they start developing colour. You get a percentage of white ones which are matte finish, and matte finish has no colour in it at all, they're just white. Now those are easily to pick out, and you get rid of those first, and then you get you get a third of your spawning will be white, and a third will be metallic green with scales. You get rid of those because they will never show any colour. So that gets rid of two-thirds of your spawning, and the others will be nacreous. Even so, when you get them, you've got to cull them, and this is the harder job. You have to be careful what you cull out. Look for the most obvious faults first. Don't be in a big hurry to start throwing them away. When you're left with the last third, that's where you have to be a bit patient, because the colour comes very slowly, and if you're not careful, you'll perhaps think there's some of them not very good colour. I've known people to throw a lot of those away, and they've thrown the best fish away. So that's something you have to be very careful with. Now these are, let me see, these are the veil tails like the others, are they? I think so. I was just looking to see if they have a growth on the red. I think these might be the ones that I've tried to turn into arandas. I will know very shortly. Very shortly. Yes, I already know. These are the ones that I've crossed with an aranda. And there's one fish I would like you to see. No, I haven't spotted it yet. Oh, there's Rambo. He's having a good time, isn't he? Oh, he's good with that net. The time he spends in that fish house, unbelievable. It looks like a building site. Here's the Rambinos. Can you see that white one there? It has a white growth on its head. They'll turn round in a bit. This is the one I want to point out. The white one there at the background. Now you can see the growth on its head. And what's that black spot? I wonder what that is. I wish it would turn round, then we could see. Come on. Thought I'd trained it to come to the front glass when I tapped on the window. It's not doing it. Anyway, it will do when it's in the mood. That one you can see has a growth on its head. Yeah. Beautiful red colour, that, isn't it? Yeah, lovely. And I think it looks well with the white lacy like in the tail. Yeah. That's got a nice dorsal fin. Yeah. It must be quite hard for them to swim with all that finnage. But they don't seem to bother. They swim all right. Just a bit more effort. Oh, come on, why aren't you turning round? Oh, well, we'll have to talk about something else first. Right, a very important thing if you want to be a good fish keeper. Oh, I thought it was coming round then. If you want to be a good fish keeper and that, there's two things you need. One is patience, and one is a tolerant wife. Now, I'd just like to explain that to you, because that's one of them. That's got a growth on its head. But where's the other one gone? Yes, I was going to tell you about tolerant wife. I was short of room to put some fish, and we had a spare room upstairs in a spare bedroom, and I had a 6 foot by 6 foot. There you are, look at that now. Isn't that beautiful? Majestic, that is majestic. 2 red nasal septums and lipstick on its lips. What more could you ask for? Anyway, back to the story. I asked my wife if I could use the back bedroom to put this paddling pool in 6 foot by 6 foot, because I needed some more room for my fish. So she said, yes, a very tolerant wife. She said, yes, I said, all right, but don't keep them in there too long. I want to use that room. So I thought, very good. I said, it'll only be for a month or 2. Anyway, time went on, about 2 months, and I was coming downstairs and going down to make my breakfast before I went to work. And I walked through the living room into the kitchen, and to my surprise, the kitchen ceiling was on the floor. you can understand what I'm getting at. Yeah, a tolerant wife doesn't argue too much in that. And another instance was, oh, look at that. Oh, beautiful face. It's a great one. And the silver eyes. And the other example is, I wanted to put, where you saw him taking the fish out of the tank in the yard, I wanted to, there was no tanks down there, and I wanted to put these 6-foot tanks down there. I hadn't got them then, but so I said to her, is it alright, Annie, if I put some tanks down this wall? She says, no, Bill, I've had enough, she says. If you take that room up, I've nowhere to put my washing. She says, you're not using it. So I went away and sulked. I thought, she's no understanding at all. And then she came to me a few days later and she said, oh, Bill, will you do something about the kitchen? It's looking a mess. And I thought, that's my golden opportunity. So I said to her, Annie, what I'll do, I'll tile the floor, I'll tile the walls, and I'll decorate the rest of it if you let me put them tanks down the side of the wall. She says, oh, all right then. So we were both satisfied then. She got a kitchen and I got my tanks in. So that is what I say, very important. Patience, you need a lot of patience, and a tolerant wife. Just bear it in mind. I've lost a few good fishy friends where the wife doesn't like them keeping fish. But there you are. Make the right choice. Here we are again with the some more fantails. Very striking colour, and I think, yeah. And another word I use quite a bit is symmetry. Symmetry is a word. It means beauty resulting from a balanced arrangement of parts. That's meaning matching parts. Everything should match, like the radius on the top and the radius on the bottom of the body. The anals, the pectoral, anal fins matching, and the tail being the right shape, and the eyes should be the same, matching, not one black eye and one bright eye. I think it's a good word, and the tail being the right size, that's another thing, the anal fins matching. And if possible, the colour matching one side. On some fish you get brilliant colours on one side, and then no colour on the other side, which is not very good, no use for showing. So that's it, symmetry, good word. Right, so these are quite bright colours. I think I'll start again. No, I won't. No, it's too hard. It's hard work. Yeah. When you're buying your fish, I recommend that you don't go buying adult fish if you're just starting up. If I was advising anybody that's just starting up, I would definitely use fish like either the common goldfish, or the comet, or the Bristol shabunkin, or the London shabunkin, one of those, which are the long-bodied fish, because short-bodied fish can soon get constipated. So it's better to deal with the long-bodied fish in the early stages. And I would buy young fish, because you can get young, perhaps half a dozen young fish for the price of one adult fish, which you have a better choice then of getting males and females. You a better chance. You have to wait, and it's a good time to learn how to keep them and that. It's not as hard work keeping young fish as adult fish. So that's another point. That's your choice. Hope you take the advice. Yeah, and if you pick any of those, which are long-bodied fish, they're less apt to get problems with constipation and things like that. Yeah. That's why it's advisable to feed quite a bit of live food, as I've spoke about. That helps to keep them free, to get problems with constipation and things like that. Yeah. That's why it's advisable to feed quite a bit of live food, as I've spoke about. That helps to keep them free. I hope you found this interesting. I'm hoping to get some tips made of this talk. I hope so. Right. I think we'll be coming near the end now, I should think. Yeah. I like fish with black spots. In my fish house, I don't know whether you've noticed or not, but I had on the frames, I've got two boxes. They're about 9 inches by about 6 inches. They held 12 small switches in each box, serving one side of the fish house and one on the other side of the fish house. This was to control most of my eating and the outside filters. Very simple, all named under the switches so that you couldn't make a mistake. And it was so simple. Really, when you think about it, a lot of my fish keeping is sort of looks after itself, with having running water and filters and thermostats. It saves a lot of trouble. I've rebuilt my fish out no end of times. I started off with just a shed with 2 tanks in, but my first tank was about 9 inches square. That's what started me off. People don't think you could keep a lot of fish like that, and to think they're in perfect condition. I'm sure nobody could fault, with the exception of the black moors that wasn't too clever. But I don't think anybody could fault the remainder of the fish that I'm showing you. And what can't speak can't lie. They're there to be seen. And sorry, folk, that's the end of the film. Hope you've enjoyed it. All the best. Bill Ramsden. Thank you.